Hi, this is Mark Harrington from markharrington.com. This is a short video, or maybe not a short video, on managing WordPress security. Security is a huge topic. This topic came to my mind as I received an email from one of my sites saying that someone had attempted to log in to my sites and had failed using my unique user admin ID. That had me concerned that my first level of security had failed, or I had made a mistake. So let's just talk about the nature of the problem. I've just done a search. This is my email account. I've just done a search for WordPress, and these are emails that have arrived today. So these five or six. How Wordfence protects your site, critical vulnerabilities patched in Xcloner backup and restore plugin. I did not use that plugin, don't have to panic. Site lockout notification on this site here. Too many bad login attempts. This is the same site, too many attempts to access a file that does not exist. And this is another site here. Too many bad login attempts. So in the space of a few hours, I have had multiple attempts to access stuff on my websites which is not allowed. Now, I did a quick search onto WordPress Security on Google and just scanned down here to, does WordPress have security issues? 84% of security vulnerabilities of the entire internet are cross-site scripting or XSS attacks. These are the most common vulnerability found in WordPress plugins. I've just clicked onto the article. It's from iThemes, who provide one of those plugins, security plugins. And it says, what are the sources of the security problems? WordPress itself, the themes, and plugins. What are the nature of the attacks? First is brute force attack, so that attempt to log in, that is a brute force attack. The next four are different types of file inclusions or file trying to access particular files. So SQL injections, cross-site scripting, adding malware. Basically adding a file into your WordPress site and using that to then work from inside of your WordPress site. So that gives you the nature of the problem. I made a short presentation based on my own experience and the training that I received many years ago on securing WordPress sites. The philosophy is all about belt and braces. And the important part is security starts with user IDs. In the old days, WordPress used to set up a site with a default user ID of admin. Now they do it a little more complicated, that you have to choose your own ID. So the trick here is to choose something that is unique and is hard to guess, and then to keep that ID hidden. And then passwords, use strong passwords and use unique passwords. So the philosophy of belt and braces is start out secure. So when you first install that first WordPress site, install it in a secure way. Install it with a unique admin user ID that is hard to guess and with strong passwords. WordPress now generates strong passwords, and you can use those or change them to your own. Step 2 is, once you've got yourself set up, is install a backup tool, so that if you make a mistake, you've got access to a backup. And then step 3 is to go belt and braces and using for security plugins and spam plugins. I use 2 plugins for security. I use Wordfence because it provides a firewall, and I use iThemes security because it provides detailed tools to protect your backend and to deal with some of those file not found issues and stuff like that. Let's have a look and see on one of my sites. So I've logged into Go for Yoga Health here's the dashboard, and the first thing you'll notice when you log in is underneath here on the left hand side it'll tell you that there is an update that needs doing. So of all the plugins and the themes that I have, there is only one update required, and that update is actually this one here. WordPress 5.5.1 is available, please update now. Why have I not done that? Because of this warning here. Your site is using a PHP version that will no longer be supported by Wordfence, and over here WordPress is detecting citing on an insecure version of PHP. Now I have not yet changed this because it's not always as simple as that, but we'll talk about how to do that right now. So basically what I'm going to do is to change the version of PHP. My hosting company allows me to do it. It gives me access to cPanel. So I'm going to open a window. I'm going to pop it in here. So we can see I've just cut and pasted the name. You'll see that it says HTTP. And I'm going to put in 2083 after a colon, and that will open up cPanel. And the first thing you'll notice, it says the plain HTTP request was sent to an HTTPS port Cloudflare. So I have already set up my site to run as a using SSL. So if I got that correct, so it's now HTTPS, and it should now load up the control panel. So there's the cPanel for Go for Yoga Health. It wants a username and it wants a account password, and you can see here that I use LastPass as my password manager. It allows me to run strong passwords and unique passwords. And you'll see I have actually 4 passwords available. This is the one for cPanel. I can then hit fill, it will fill it up there. I'll then do a pause, and then we will go the next step so that you do not see what my user ID is. So we have now logged into my cPanel, and what we're looking for is a way to change PHP. So it's domains, email, metrics, security, software. In this one here, it used to be called PHP Selector. It's now called Multi-PHP Manager. So we pop open Multi-PHP Manager, and we will see that we're running PHP 5.4, and we can actually upgrade. It says 7 and 7.1 are deprecated. So you really want to go to 7.2, 7.3 or 7.4, and there's an option down at the bottom which is called inherit. Now there is an important step here, is that because if we get this thing wrong, we want to be able to go back to a prior version of it and also get hold of a backup. So I'm going to go into the dashboard for WordPress, and you'll see here is a tool called I use Backup Creator. I can make a backup. So I've now pressed it there, so I can actually just press backup now. Right, so the process then of changing the PHP version is to change this to a new one and then see if it works. I'm not going to do that right now, because when I did this for one of my other sites earlier this week, it was a bit technical to fix the problem. It's all to do with the way this inheriting process works, but it's just a sampler of what one has to be able to do. So far, we've talked about user IDs and passwords. We've talked about start out with a secure base on quality hosting. We've done an admin user ID. I want to go into this user ID topic and to deal with what do you do if you haven't got it right. So we're going to go across to users. I'm going to go through the process now of adding a new user. Basically, let's assume what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new user to replace this one. So we're going to go to here. We're going to add new. It requires a name. The name needs, my recommendation is it needs to be unique. I use a combination of initials that relate to the name of the user relates to the website itself and to the role that you're playing, whether it's WordPress subscriber or WordPress administrator or something like that. It requires an email, and emails need to be unique, so you can only have one email per user on the site, and the other information is actually not required. But what you will notice in here, and it requires a role, so if we're going in as an administrator, we'll just change that there. What you'll notice here is that it does not have one key piece of information, which is the nickname. So basically, when we create a new user, it's going to assign a nickname. So we create a new user, we'll run down here, and we'll see we've got a new user. So there's the username, can't be changed. And there's a nickname which is required. What it does as a default is it uses that username as the nickname. And that is how the hackers find out what your username is, because your nickname gets displayed. So if you change this to something that's different to that, they cannot see your username. Now, so the process then, if you've got these things mixed up, so somebody's already seen this, what you've got to do is you want to add a new user, go through those process steps. And so if we're doing an administrator one, we'll go through the process of adding a new user. First thing you do once you've added that new user is to go in and to edit the user to change the nickname. So we go to all users, we edit to change that nickname. So the nickname is not the same as this ID up top here, and then log out, then log back in as the new user, and then head along here to delete. So delete that user, and it asks you what to do with these 9 posts, whether you want to delete the 9 posts or copy them across to one of the other users. So that is the process for creating a new user. So create a new user, change the nickname, log out, delete the old one, and copy the posts across to the new one that you've just created. I'm not going to go into the detail on how to implement Wordfence. It's a fairly simple process. You go to plugins, add new, search for Wordfence. So I'll type that in and you'll see it will pop up. This one here, it will say, like this one here, it says install now. So then you just need to install and activate. And once you've got that activated, it'll ask for an email address to send your digests to, and then it will ask you to configure the firewall. It starts in learning mode, and literally it's one button to press and it will start looking after you. The other security plugin, which is iThemes Security, this is iThemes Security. There's a warning here, it doesn't work with my versions of WordPress and PHP, so we clearly need to fix that. But this is what it's called, iThemes Security, and then you just do the same thing. You install it, activate it, and it will pop up as on the left hand side. Here's the dashboard. The dashboard is fairly complicated. The important step here is temporarily whitelist my IP. So you whitelist your IP so that you don't lock yourself out, and basically you work through these settings boxes up here. So I'm going to find a way to work through how's the best way to navigate through that, because it's not trivial. I found this really cool article from WP beginner.com. It's called the Ultimate WordPress Security Guide, step by step for 2020. I'm going to whiz down to the table of contents, and we'll talk about things that we've already covered. Keep WordPress updated, passwords and user permissions, and the importance of your web hosting. There are some easy steps. Install a backup solution. We've talked about that. Using the best WordPress security plugin, they have a recommendation. I have a different idea. Enable a web application firewall. I use Wordfence for that. I use 2 plugins to provide coverage for this one, and then move the WordPress site to SSL HTTPS. I have done that using Cloudflare. Now there are some detail steps. WordPress security for DIY users. Change the default admin username. So if you've already got admin as the username, you want to change it. I've already talked about how to do that. And then we're basically going to go through each of these steps. Limit login attempts. It's built into iThemes securities, or you load up a plugin to do it. Now what I recommend you do is you sit with this list, work through this list, and in the settings here for iThemes security, it also always starts off with don't lock yourself out, and you just work down this list here. Global settings, 404 detection. So what happens when there's a file that is not found and people try to keep accessing a file? They're trying to hack into your site. Brute force protection, doing the backups, dealing with file change detection, hide the login area so that people can't see it, scan for malware, strong password, so that's insisting that users create, and then there are a few detailed tweaks down below, and just work through this list here. I'm just going to run all the way down. 3 lockouts, bang, somebody gets blacklisted for 7 days. So lockout, limit lockout is in there. And as a scan, 404 detection, it's enabled. As soon as somebody can't find a file and then try to come back to look for the same file, they get blocked out. And we're just going to work down this list and use this list here, and you'll find all the items that are listed here are actually covered in this plugin. So you don't have to, and just use the defaults until you know that you need something different. So that pretty well summarizes all of that. Now I've just got, there are some gory details. Most of this we've actually covered. A unique user admin ID, watch the digests to see if somebody has compromised and identified your user ID. As soon as you see that, change it. Disable user creation so that no one else can create a user other than you as the administrator, and or insist on strong passwords. That's one of the options that's in iThemes security. Limit login attempts, lock them out. Change the WP admin access path, that is to that login paths, so that you can hide them. Protect 404 not filed loopholes, protect your configuration files. These are just basically examples from here. Disable XML, RPC and WordPress. We can write that one in. Copy those words, and we'll stick it straight into. Bang! There it is. It's on the gory details, and we'll just work our way down the list. So I think we've done a pretty thorough exploration of WordPress security. User IDs, strong passwords. Start out secure. Think security right from the beginning. Add to Cloudflare, gives you protection from denial of service and gives you access to SSL so you can serve over HTTPS. Keep everything up to date. Read those digests and take action. I appreciate your time. It's been a marathon effort to sit through, but this is an important topic.